All right, so today we talked with Joey DiBenedetto. He's the team leader out of Keller Williams, Cupertino, and Palo Alto in the San Francisco Bay Area. We went over the DISC profile, which most people have taken through TonyRobbins.com. It's essentially a personality assessment that's going to teach you who you are, why you do what you do, and most importantly, why do other people drive you crazy. If you've never taken a class with Joey, he's just about as entertaining of a speaker as you can find. This is definitely a longer class. It's going to run about an hour and a half long, but I promise you it is worth every minute all the way to the end. I like to liken this to essentially mind control for real estate agents, but really what it's going to help you do is first identify your personality traits, then identify your client's personality traits, and then how you can essentially find the balance between the two and communicate with them at a higher level. Because when we can communicate better, we're going to convert that lead at a higher level. So think if you can go on a listing appointment and you know their personality type and you know your personality type before you get there, magical things are going to happen and you're going to increase your conversion rates. So take a watch. Like I said, it's a little bit long, but Joey is absolutely entertaining. You're not going to be disappointed. As always, if you have questions, drop them in the comments below and you know how to get a hold of me. So here we go. Okay, so this is Joey. If you don't know Joey, he's the team leader over in Cupertino and Palo Alto. I'm Jason. I'm the team leader in Fremont. So we're across the bay from each other, but we play pretty friendly. But Joey's going to talk about how to manipulate humans with the DISC profile. How's that sound?
That sounds, honestly, that was phenomenal. Because okay, so do I have everyone's written, verbal, and mental permission to be blunt?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
See, thank you, Dennis. In Spanish. Did you know I just got back from Mexico? I've been saying words in Spanish all week and everyone's like, what's wrong with you? Anyway, I'm learning. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to be very blunt. I might curse. So I want to just sincerely apologize in advance. If a curse word comes out of my mouth, I need you to know that I'm a good person still and love me for who I am. Is that okay? Okay, great. So I have permission to do all the things. Okay, great. So how many of you on this call, and by the way, if you just joined us, turn your video on. I want to see your faces. It's a class about communication, so we should be communicating. How many of you have taken a DISC profile? Raise your hand, or like digital hand, or any of that sort of stuff. Okay, how many of you have ever reviewed your DISC profile with somebody who knew what they were talking about? Okay, cool. So this is a tool that I think honestly changed my world. Like literally the DISC profile changed my whole life in every which way I communicate it. It changed every relationship that I've ever been a part of. Because the simple fact is that we as humans want to be communicated with the way that we communicate, not the way that somebody else communicates, the way that we communicate. So for instance, some of you already on this call are thinking he's got way too much energy. He's a little too direct for me. I don't know that I like this guy just yet. Just give me a freaking second. Okay. So here's the deal. There's a lot of funny things about this, and we're going to get into some comedy of it because honestly, it's hysterical. And some people are going to be on this call and feel very seen very quickly. That's the point. So let me go through some things. So we're going to talk about basically who you are and why you do what you do and why other people on the planet annoy the shit out of you. Annoy the crap out of you. Yeah, already off to a terrible start. We operate, the DISC profile is an operational assessment, not a personality assessment. So let me be clear on this. And I think the next slide literally says the same thing. There's 4 types of operational styles in which we operate in. And by the way, all of you are some form or fashion of all 4 of these styles. You just have some dominant and submissive styles. So you have the high D, which is a dominant person or a driver. For those of you out there who are high Ds, you know who you are. You don't like small talk. You don't love like being like sort of you want to be the center of attention. Dennis raises his hand. That's also a high I right there. We'll talk about that in a second. Drivers want to get stuff done. They want to break all the rules. And we'll go into all this too. High Is, those are the people who are influencers. They're inspiring. They use their hands a lot. Pleasure to meet you. I'm also Italian. It just comes out. They want to be in relationship with people. They like talking to other people. They get energy from being in the room with others. And the relationship is important. High S's. These are people who are stable. They're supportive. These are exceptional admins. These are like the best partners, like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, on the planet because they always will give the shirt off their back, but they also carry around guilt like a badge of honor. So just enjoy that for a second as we get to that. And then high C's. High C's are compliance and coordination and correctness. Like these are the people who have a list for everything, a spreadsheet for everything. They like get jollies. They're jollies out of watching YouTube videos on how to do different things in Excel. You know, like it's not me for the record. It's a scale of 0 to 100. So I've never met anybody who was a 0 in any of these. I'm a 99I out of 100, a 98D out of 100, a 47S, and a 14C. So literally the C, the compliance or the correctness of me is like, you flip a couple pages to find it because it doesn't exist. Like I'm the kind of guy who likes to run fast, break things, have fun while we do it. And then like literally just like sort of do it with other people sometimes, but mostly I want to be in charge because I'm a perfectionist and a control freak. And if you're a high D, you're the same way. All right. So here's the dealio. This is not a personality assessment. This is an operational assessment. Hold on. Who is it?
That's Jason.
Jason?
It's not me.
Well, we'll blame you anyway. It's easier to blame you than anyone else.
If you give me co-host back, I'll mute people for you.
Gotta let go of my control.
Good morning.
I told you I'm a high D. It won't let me make you a co-host, so we'll just get over it. Okay, so here's the deal. This is not a personality assessment. Don't take what I'm about to say personally. Like, don't go home if you're a high S or a high I. Don't listen to these words and be like, this is really hurtful. It's not hurtful. It's how you choose to operate. And there's two types of styles. There's your natural style, which is how you show up when you're by yourself. And there's your adaptive style, which is how you show up when you perceive that you're being watched, which is a very creepy way of saying when you're with a group, when you're around other people. Okay. So like,
That's why you need a baby minute.
there we go. Got it. Boom.
I was gonna say just hit mute all and then unmute yourself again.
Yeah, it's all good. I'll get them one by one.
Okay.
I like to live dangerously. So the thing about these things, seriously, y'all, it's an operational style. And what I want you to understand is that when you understand how you choose to operate, everything else becomes clearer and simpler. And then the benefit is once you understand your style, you get to identify the style across the table from you. So when you can identify who's across the table, you then get the intentional choice to choose how you're going to communicate so that you can communicate powerfully. Because most of us are very unintentional in our lives. Can we agree with this? We brush our teeth with the same hand. We get out of bed with the same foot. We literally open the fridge door with the same hand. Like most of our lives are unintentional. We just go, 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 go. In our communication style, we have got to be intentional, especially when we want to win, because y'all, our communication is a weapon that we get to use for either good or evil. Hopefully it's all good. If you're an evil villain, you're in the wrong call. We want to use it for good to get what we want out of the other side, right? Let's just call a spade a spade. The whole point when you go on a listing presentation, you don't show up at the listing presentation to not get the listing. You don't meet a buyer for their presentation to not take the buyer. You do all these things to achieve the goal. So not a personality assessment, operational. Boom, got it. Look at me go. Okay. This class will help you to communicate and interact with the way that the other person in the room that you're talking to, wish to be communicated with. And that is the secret sauce of this. So you'll have to forgive me every time I change a slide. I have to move all y'all's faces because I have you big. So forgive me. I'm not bougie in my Cupertino office. I only have one screen. You know what it is? It's a tough life. Okay, so let's talk about high Ds. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, they are literally a tornado. So usually I'll give you a great representation of how you know someone is a high D. Like typically they run high D first. They tend to be a little bit of an asshole. You with me on this? They tend to be a little bit of like kind of an ass. And here's how you know. They're not actually that. They don't actually operate that way. They just don't have enough patience because they're in their brain trying to do 1,000 things at once. And it's got to be perfect and flawless every single time. And you probably just came to them at the wrong time. And so they're short and sweet and to the point. Now, what that means about high Ds is that they want to be communicated with short and sweet and to the point. So if you go to a high D and start talking about your vacation while they're in the middle of doing something on the computer, you're an idiot. Don't do it. if you go to a listing presentation and you see that the husband or the wife across from you is a high D, or the husband and the husband, or the wife and the wife, it doesn't matter. The person across from you is a high D. Don't take your listing presentation, which is 35,000 pages, and say, are you ready to begin? Don't go page by page. Don't be a dum-dum. They don't care. They want to know what you can do for them. You already earned just enough of their trust by being in the room. Like just them saying yes to the appointment means it's yours to lose at this point. Okay, 10% of the population that you're dealing with is a high D. So it's the lowest of the 4. So just so you know, this will be, unfortunately in real estate, it tends to be the highest. So most top producers are high Ds or high Cs or high Is. It's sort of in that order. Gary Keller, for instance, is a high D, high C. That's why like when you see him on stage at family reunion, he's like very low relationship based and all just like straight to the point. He had to work on building relationships because it doesn't come natural for him. Okay, let's keep going. These are the characteristics. They are dominant. They tend to be direct. They can be demanding. They're decisive in their decisions. Everything is like, let's move quick. They're determined. They are fixers, problem solvers, fixers, and they are doers. We don't want to, let's stop talking about doing it. Let's just get it freaking done. They tend to be a little bit defiant. So if you tell them they can't, they're like, well, screw you, watch me do it. Trust me, that's a big one. That's the takeaway close with a high D is a great opportunity for you to win with a high D because they're like, screw you, I will hire you. Risk takers, and then they are self-starters. So by the way, this doesn't just apply to your clients. This applies to if you're looking to hire team members, if you're looking to hire admin, if you're looking to like hire anybody in your business and you want someone who needs to be a self-starter, you need to look for high Ds. And you can have them take a DISC assessment for free on tonyrobbins.com/DISC. They don't pay me for that. I wish they did because I've sent so many freaking people to that DISC profile. So what are they like? So what does a high D really want? They are competitive. So they want to win. For the record, if you ever play a board game with me, I'm not playing to play the game. I'm playing to destroy you. Do you understand? Like if we're playing Monopoly, I'm playing to take all the money. I want all the lands. I want boardwalk and everything, all the railroads, like everything. They like to plan for the future. They are planners. They're not planners in the sense of details. They're planners in the sense of big picture. And yes, you will receive a recording of this class, except all of my curse words will be bleeped out because Jason's a good guy. So they love new ideas. They want to try new stuff. 0 bleeps. Damn it. Ugh. Okay. They love new ideas. They love results. So if you want to lose with a high D, tell them you're going to do something and then don't follow through. You'll lose every single time. You want to win with a high D, set expectations, set the results, and then follow through on what you said you were going to do. And you do that consistently, like 2 or 3 times. That high D will trust that they can then give you things. I'll tell you right now, as a high D, and if you are a high D on this call, the hardest thing for you to do is to give up control. The absolute hard, because nobody does it the way that you do it. And because you're a perfectionist and a control freak, you couldn't possibly teach somebody how to do what you do because it's just your je ne sais quoi. What? Question? Answer?
You're good.
Okay, great. So they want to be their own boss. These people are independent. They like to move very quickly and they love a challenge. Give them their freedom.
Mission, which is like everything that.
Got it. Oh, boom.
It's like whack-a-mole. I love it. Bam.
They want their freedom. So raise your hand if you're a high D. If you're like the high D is where you sit. Yep. Alex. Yep. Dennis. Okay. But Dennis, I know you got that high I in there, so we'll talk about that later too. Okay. Any questions so far about this little tidbit? And we're in a second, I'm going to give you some real life examples of how you can figure out who the hell you're talking to. So here's the weaknesses of high Ds. Here's what gets in our way. We tend to overstep authority. So like if someone tells us we can't, we don't know. The last time we saw a crosswalk, we don't know when that was because we just crossed the damn street. Like we just go because the boba place is across the street. So we just cross, right? The Starbucks is across the street and the crosswalk is 20 inches in the wrong direction. So we just cross. We tend to have a little bit of an argumentative attitude, although we're not arguing. My dad is Italian. My dad was Italian and he used to say, my mom would be like, stop yelling at me. And he would say things like, you want to hear yelling? And he would raise his voice and he'd be like, that's yelling. I'm just having a conversation. You'd be like, well, that seems loud. They have an argumentative attitude. Okay. They dislike routine, which is a big downside because success is in the routine. But I'm going to give you some tips to help with that. They attempt too much at once. We say yes to almost everything because we're like, I got this. And also I can fix it. And also if people would just listen to me, I would have everything solved already. Yes, you understand? They cause anxiety in other people. If you're a high S or a high I or a high C, you're over here listening to me like, damn, this guy's really talking fast. I don't have enough time to take the notes down. Is this recorded? Please. They cause anxiety. Critical and fault finding. We tend to look for the mistakes that we've made. Very quickly, we will go to, it's my fault. Or if you're an egotistical high D, you tend to blame everybody else, but we can work through that. Don't worry. But we tend to be okay blaming ourselves and moving forward, or we will find the fault in somebody else. We're really good at that. We have no attention to detail. So like if you send me an email, if you send a high D an email with like 45 lines in an email, you better just quit your job because like they're never going to read it. You want to send somebody an Excel spreadsheet, you just lost the client. No one's going to open it. Do not show up to a listing presentation with a high D. Sit down and have a conversation. They don't care about your marketing materials. They don't care about how great Keller Williams is. They just want to know if you can sell their house and how much for. So really hear me. And I'm going to tell you how you can identify who they are because you're going to do a little prep work beforehand. But when you go and sit down with a high D, get straight to it. If they ask you if you want a tour, just say, no, I'm good. Or is there anything that you feel like you need to show me that's important? And if the answer is no, then just sit down and say, let's get down to business. Let's talk about how do we get this house sold. They will respect you more for not being in limbo land and just getting straight to the point. Now, but you have to be careful because we're critical and fault finding, we may take your high D attitude as you're being an asshole. Just because we're an asshole doesn't mean you get to be an asshole. You with me on this? Okay. They may resist participation as a part of a team. You're never going to get them to go with something because somebody else did it. In fact, the way you get them to go with something is because it's something new that hasn't been done before, quote unquote, like a price drop. No one's doing it. You know what I mean? Okay. Jokes on them. Okay. Biggest fear ever is being taken advantage of. This is why they're control freaks, is because every time they give up a centimeter, the person on the other end does it wrong by like 1 inch. And suddenly it's evidence that we have to do everything. No one can do it. By the way, high Ds, you're wrong. Like you're just straight up wrong. Other people can do better work than you can sometimes, just sometimes. And if you find the person who you can trust to do the other work, the problem with high Ds is because we have no attention to detail. We know how we do it really well, but we don't know how the hell to communicate how we do it really well to somebody else. And then when we give somebody the task, they're like, okay, well, I guess I don't really know what to do. So I'm just going to do it my way. And then when they do it their way, it's not our way because we never explained it to do it our way. And then we're pissed they didn't do it our way. We're idiots. But we're right 100% of the time. All right. Here's how you win. Go with me on this. You with me? Okay. Communicate briefly and to the point. Minimize the small talk. Don't go into the details. Don't talk about relationship. Don't go into the emotion. Deal with what and how questions because those deal with facts and they engage the other person because we want the other person to feel like they're understood. A high D wants to feel like they're with another high D. Avoid the details. Respect their need for autonomy. So if they say, I want to wait a couple weeks, you can say yes. You can do that, but honestly, most high Ds are okay being pushed a little bit. You can push a high D a little bit. Be clear about the rules and the expectations because your integrity with your word is everything. If you say you're going to do something and you don't follow through, you've lost their trust forever and they will never believe that you'll follow through again. And they may give you another shot because somebody else told them to do it who they respect enough or more. But if you screw it up a second time, you lost it forever. And then let them initiate some things. Let them initiate some conversation. Let them initiate some of the things that they want to talk about. Ask them what's important that we talk about today, and then let them talk. This is a big one. You have to back up confidence with capability. So the reason why I tell you don't show up with a listing presentation is because they're going to think that this is a crutch. By the way, I'm using the MREA. This is a great listing presentation, but they're going to think it's a crutch. They're going to think you didn't come prepared. But if you know your numbers, if you know that the house down the street sold for X amount of dollars and that this house is coming soon and it's going to be listed for Y, they're going to feel like they can trust you because it's all up here, baby. And that's how we high Ds operate. Everything that's right in the world is right in our brains. Stick to the topic, show independence, show that you work by yourself or that you don't need a lot of help, and eliminate the time wasters. So before we get into high Is, any questions on the high Ds? Let me go to the chat. Is there anything in the chat here that I missed?
No, you're good.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about high Ds?
All the high Ds didn't pay attention to any of that because it was too many words. So they don't
they
know
were
if
they were texting. Yeah, they were
Yeah.
texting. It's okay.
They moved on.
They had a client. They had just sold 10 properties. So it's all
Yeah,
good.
they just took 3 listings while you were talking.
Congratulations, by the way, all you high Ds out there. All right. Can we go into high Is? Is that okay with you all?
I have a quick question, Joey.
Yeah, Sarah. Go ahead.
How do you know if you're going to a presentation? How do you know the personality of the client?
Great question. Sorry, I said I would tell you this and then I didn't because I'm a high D. So here's the deal. There's 2 ways to do this. The easiest way, honestly, is to pick up the phone and have a conversation with them. Because the minute they pick up the phone, let's say it's a cold call. Let's say you're a cold caller, you call a FSBO's expires, whatever it might be. When you call them, if you get a hello, Heidi, you don't have to guess anymore. You don't go into, hello, Mr. Buyer. My name is Joseph DiBenedetto, and I'm with Keller Williams. Do you have a moment to talk about your car's extended warranty? No, stop it. Like, that's not the time. Don't do it. You say, hey, is now a bad time to talk? And then they say, no. You ask them a question that leads to no. That way they get a little bit flustered. So it's okay. We've flustered them a little bit. And then you say, my name is Joey. I understand your house is available for sale. I wanted to know if you'd be open to meeting, to chatting about what I can do for you to help you get it sold. They're going to tell you no immediately, by the way. Every high D is going to tell you no because no is protection. Yes is commitment. High Ds don't like commitment. So, and then the best thing you can do with a high D is say, I know you're going to tell me no at the end of this question, but before you tell me no, take a minute to think about it because I want it to be a yes. High Ds will respect the hustle. They respect the game. And if you have no game, they're not going to work with you. Now, the other way to do it, if you already have the listing presentation or the buyer consultation scheduled, you send a pre-listing or a pre-buyer consultation the night before. You text them, call them, email them and say, hey, I'm going to send you a pre-listing presentation for you to look at. Take a look and we'll talk about what's in there tomorrow. And if they don't respond, that's a pretty good indication. If they do respond, you should know that they're probably going to actually look at it. If you get there, you ask the question, hey, thanks so much for meeting with me. Did you have a time to look at the pre-listing presentation I sent you? If they're a high D, they're going to tell you no. They didn't open up a document in an email. Are you kidding me? That's like 2 clicks. It's way too many clicks. So they're going to say, no, just I want to talk to you about it. If they say yes, odds are they're probably a high C or a high S. High C's because they want to know all the details, or high S because you sent something and said you were going to send it and they don't want to be rude by not opening it. You with me? The pre-listing, pre-buyer consultation is the secret sauce to getting into relationship quickly because the answer to that question, yes or no, gives you exactly which route you need to take. If they say yes, then you know you're going to go into the details. If they say no, you're not going to go over details. And you're going to say things like, look, we could spend this whole time going over all the details, but I think the most important thing is that we get right down to the point. And we make sure that it's the right fit for you to sell this property at the right price. Don't you think? A high D is going to be like, kiss me, marry me, take my children. Okay. All right. Does that answer that question, Sarah?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on the high D section? Okay, great. Let's keep going. High Is. Now remember, I'm a 99I, 98D. If you haven't taken your DISC assessment yet, Jason's going to put the Tony Robbins link in the chat. Go take it. It literally takes 10 minutes. Yeah, Jason, you have to go to a website.
But don't do it during this class, you dang high Ds.
No.
If you're impulse to go take it right now when I post it, you're a high D. We've got you already.
Yeah. Or a high C because you're like, I need the data for this class. I need to make sure that the data is correct. All right. 25% of the population are high Is, much larger percentage. You're going to deal with a lot of high Is, especially in real estate. We gregarious guys and girls, we tend to just like love the HGTV aspect of everything. So we want to be in real estate. We are the cheerleaders. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, we're the pom-poms in the room. We're the ones who show up to Red Day. We're the ones who want to be at the happy hours. We enjoy being around other people. We want to talk about our families and our friends and all the other stuff. And then real estate might come up later. We're the ones who lean on relationship to build our business, which is a challenge because sometimes you need to lean on systems and models to build a business. And the ceiling of achievement for a high I is going to be their ability to build relationships and then systematize the relationships. Because what we do as high I's is we go and be friends with everybody. And then we're mad when that person who we just became friends with went with another realtor who just happened to send them a postcard in the mail. You know who you are. You high I's out there are like, we're best friends and you went with somebody else. It's like, yeah, because we talk like once every 10 years. Like, we're not best. What are you talking about? We make up things in our brain. You with me on this? How many of you are high I's in the room? Okay. Hold on. Let me see. Let me go to the next page. Okay, great. Let's go over who we are. We are inspiring. Congratulations, we did it. We're influencing. We want to have a say in things. We're the kids who like loved a group project because we got to work together with other people in elementary school. High D's are the ones who took the whole project home and did it themselves and got everybody an A because they didn't trust anybody to do it the way that they wanted to do it. And you know who you are. You know who you are. But you know what? Your friends are grateful because they didn't have to do anything with that project. They're impressionable. Because relationship is important to them, they want to like have it be easy to be with other people.
No fancy.
Hold on. Got it. They are interesting. They tend to be like people that you want to get to know a little bit better, or even if you just meet them for a hot second, you're like, I like that guy. I don't know why, but I just have a feeling about him. Completely illogical and want to be involved in everything. They're always in the drama. They always are like, did you hear about that agent who just did that thing with that guy or that girl? You're like, no, Karen, I did not hear that. Leave it alone. Illogical. We deal with emotion. We love emotion. So if it makes us happy, we do it. And if it makes us sad, we don't do it. Hard thing about this, though, y'all, is that the things that make us unhappy are usually the things that make us the most amount of money, like lead generation, which is boring. So we don't like to lead generate because it's boring and we hear people tell us no, and that doesn't make us feel good. So we don't do it anymore. But we love when people come to us and they're like, oh my God, be in relationship with me. Help me sell my house. They love it. Okay. Super enthusiastic. Hi, pleasure to meet you. We trust right away. And honestly, this is a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that when you're with another high I, you know that you've got their trust. The sad part is that we trust, like we'll trust to the point of like taking it to the bank. So they'll be like, yes, I'll sign that listing agreement tomorrow. And then the next day comes and you're like, I got this listing. Like you leave the listing appointment, you're like, I got it. I'm a beast. And then suddenly the next day there's no listing agreement in your inbox and you realize that that was a counterfeit yes. And you're never going to get the listing agreement because they went with a high D who made them sign it in the room. Hold on. Who is it? Got it. Aha. Okay. So we trust a little bit too much. We give a little bit of ourselves too quickly, too soon. We have a very short attention span. You all see Up? Remember that dog in Up, Squirrel? That's us. That's a high I to a T. They base that dog off of me personally. We are flashy, classy attire. We like to dress up. We like to look good. We like to drive fancy cars. We're a little, the word is bougie. We tend to be a little bit bougie, but usually we're bougie about certain things and then don't give a shit about everything else. We're like, I'm bougie about this, but I don't really care about this other thing. And then we tend to be very talkative and very animated. High I's want to be themselves. They don't want to feel judged on who they are. So when you go to a listing presentation or a buyer consultation and you realize you're having conversations that have nothing to do with what you came there to have a conversation about, let them have those conversations because they're building relationship with you, which lets you win. So if you're a high D, stop trying to be a high D and let them have the conversations and be like, wow, tell me more. Wow, that's amazing. You went there, engage in them with the relationship, even though it's hard to do because we don't want to have those conversations. We don't care about your trip to Tulum. We don't care about your kids' basketball game that they lost. We just want to have a conversation about real estate, which is what we came to do. But let them have the conversation because you'll win with the relationship. Okay. Now, high I's, man, oh man, we want to be liked. We just want everyone to like us. We're not adverse to conflict, but we would much rather just have people like us. So, and let me put it in a simpler way. If somebody says something that we don't like, we'll typically just be like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, totally. Understood. Yeah, I got that. High D's are like, no, you're wrong. High S's won't say anything. They'll just nod and smile and walk away and be like, oh my God, that person's a crazy person. Run. You can't be in a relationship with him. And high C's will be like, where's the data? Where's the data to prove what you're saying is true? Show me the data and I'll believe you. Okay. They like to express their ideas and their feelings. So when you go to a listing presentation, if you know you're dealing with a high I because they open the door and they give you a hug and they ask you how you're doing and it's all about the emotion, ask them to take you through the house and tell you what they love about it. Engage in the relationship. Say like, oh my gosh, tell me about this. Oh my God, I love this picture of you guys at Lake Tahoe. Tell me more about this. Talk about the things that are on the walls. Talk about like, why did you move to the neighborhood? What do you love about it? Oh my God, this backyard is so cute. That gazebo looks like $1 million. Did you build that yourself? Oh my God, you're such a little Bob the Builder. Make them feel special. Okay. They love surprises. So when you show up to your listing appointment or your buyer consultation, bring a gift. Bring a gift. It can literally be the smallest thing in the world, like a Starbucks gift card for $5. Got it.
Oh, that was a loud one.
I'm getting good at this. I'm getting real good. Bring something to surprise and delight them. So the Ritz-Carlton model works really well because surprise and delight is ingrained in everything that they do. You don't just show up to the listing presentation. You show up to the listing presentation with a bottle of champagne, pre-celebrating the sale of their home. You show up with a Starbucks gift card because the next time you're going to meet them, it's going to be at a coffee shop. Or you show up with your favorite Mexican restaurant in the neighborhood that they live in because you know that this neighborhood is amazing and you're going to offer this to anybody who purchases the house as well. You create relationship by engaging them in a unique way because we love surprises. And make it fun. Like, don't show up to the listing or buyer consultation and be all business. Nobody wants to talk business when you're a high I. We want to talk relationship. And then, by the way, a high I, you better recognize them on Facebook. I just took this great listing with the most incredible owners on the planet and tag them, tag them, tag them. And then after you close, post their 5-star review, tag them, tell them how great they are. Tell all your friends, send an email out that how great these are to nobody, take a screenshot, text it to them and just say, I just had to tell everybody how great you guys were. Make them feel special. And then, by the way, they love people, right? So like, let them engage with other people. A great thing you can do with a high I, if you have a team, is to let them meet your team. If you don't have a team, tell them who your team is and make sure that
He's a high D.
Hold on a second. There's a phone.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Hold on a sec.
Bye, Joey. So how are you guys doing?
I made it to
They're
the
pretty
office.
good.
Hey, Alex is here. Ooh, it's like Hawaiian day in the office.
Okay. Sorry about that. There was a secondary phone in my office and I thought I was in the Matrix for a second because my phone is right here and I heard a ring and it's honestly, I thought I was maybe having a stroke, but I'm alive. We're good. Okay. Let's
You
keep
literally
going.
said that you are that dog from the movie Up. So squirrel.
Yeah. That was based off of me. Yeah. It was a really fun interview process. Okay. No attention to detail. High eyes don't care about the details at all. They want to think big picture and the fun things. So they want to talk about what we're going to achieve at the end of it and what we're going to do. You're going to talk with high eyes about how you celebrate with your clients when you close, not about price drops. You're going to maybe glide over that real quickly and then right to the winner. Okay. They listen when it's convenient. So odds are if you're a high I, you've like checked your phone, you're checking emails. And then when you thought something was funny, you check back it. Or when you thought you were in trouble because you heard a noise and you thought maybe it was you that was unmuted, you checked back in, but you tend to be a little bit flighty. You're like a little butterfly. We oversell everything. Welcome to this class. Acts impulsively. Literally, we just move, we just do things. And we're like, wow, did we just do that? We did it. And here's the thing about that. That is actually one of your best qualities and your worst qualities because we have evidence that when we act impulsively, we tend to win. But the problem is that if we don't systematize the impulsivity, then we lose. Because in our business, the systems and the models are what create the results consistently. And so what happens is you'll do something impulsively and it'll create a result, and then you'll never do it again, even though you know it creates a result because you didn't do it, you didn't create any consistency around it. So, and what I mean by this is go with me. You'll decide for some reason that this house, this listing you just took is worth sending out a mailer to 50 people. And that mailer to 50 people ends up getting you a lead. And you're like, wow, I nailed it. I knocked it out of the park. And then you never send mailers again because you're a dum-dum, because we're impulsive, because somebody told you you got a discount somewhere, or somebody told you to send a mailer. You saw it somewhere, you got something or other. Okay, difficult to plan and estimate time with. Like how many of you, if you're a high I, you tend to be around other high Is. If you all tried to make dinner reservations with a high I, you're like, yeah, let's show, they're like a plumber. Let's show between 1 and 7 p.m. They're terrible. And then they'll still show up at 8:30. They are more concerned with popularity than tangible results. You are more concerned if you're a high I, and I say you because I mean me. Wait, Jason feels attacked? Yeah, you are. More concerned with popularity than tangible results. You want everything to go so smoothly that you would rather do what makes everyone feel good than do the thing that actually produces the result that leads to you making the money. And guys, while I love you all, you did not get into real estate to simply have people like you. You got into real estate to weaponize your relationships so that those relationships can produce income for you. And that income can feed your life and your family and your legacy. So like, while I'm a high I, but I'm also a high D, which is why it's nice for me because I can turn that thing off real quick. You have to make sure that you are weaponizing our relationships. And I say weaponizing because it's a very aggressive word. And that might scare some people like you high S's over there. You're like, I could never. Oh my God, I would never weaponize anything, especially my relationships. They'll hate me. They're not going to hate you. But the reason why your relationships go with other agents is because other agents weaponize them and they said yes in the moment. And because you didn't feel comfortable reaching out to them because you're like, I don't want to ruin my relationship. You just ruined the relationship because they went with another agent and now you're mad at them and you think they hate you. And then you feel guilty that you didn't follow up. Okay, biggest fear ever for high Is, rejection, or said in another way, rejection. Don't reject a high I. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use this as a tactic to get what you want. How many of you have broken up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and suddenly that boyfriend or girlfriend's like, but I love you. I want you back. Come back to me, please. They're probably a high I, and you did the takeaway close, and they were like, no, this is the love of my life. I must. And then 2 weeks later, you break up again because you weren't right together. You with me on this? This works with buyers and sellers as well. When you have a high I, share what the expectation is, and then tell them you're not going to meet the expectation. So what I mean by this is when you're with a high I, you tell them, typically when they say something like, I don't really feel comfortable signing the listing agreement yet. What I'll say is, I completely understand. I would say in 95% of my listing appointments, this listing agreement is signed in the room. But what I'll do for you is I'll leave it here. You sign it and I'll be back tomorrow if you feel like you're comfortable working with me. Give them the takeaway close, tell them what most people do and how they're not going to do the same thing that most people do. And then suddenly it's like, oh man, I don't want to be the one person who doesn't do what everyone else does. Same thing with high S's. You can win with a high S just by telling them what other people do and that they're not doing it. Okay. Here's the deal. How do you relate to a high I? You got to be relaxed, be sociable, have a conversation. Don't show up as a salesman. Don't feel the need to go through every nitty-gritty page of your listing presentation. Build the relationship. Let the high I talk. Like let them word vomit out everything they want to say because they're going to want to talk about everything except what you want to talk about for a while. You all know you've been on a high I listing presentation when it lasted 3 hours and you walk out of that room and you're like, I am exhausted. I have no idea what we just did, but I think I got a listing. We'll see. Keep the conversation light. Don't get crazy. Even when you're talking about business, don't get crazy about the business. Suggest what actions they could take or they should take. I'm sorry. That's why I say things like 95% of my clients sign the listing agreement in the room, but I understand that doesn't work for you right now. So what I'm going to do is, and then create the expectation. Provide the details in writing afterwards, but don't dwell on them. Again, high Is aren't going to read your detailed email. They're going to be like, great, got an email from him. I'll save it. Or maybe they'll just sit in their inbox with 750,000 emails. Y'all know who you are. Give them public recognition, use humor, make jokes, make them laugh, make them feel like you're funny. Like if you're not funny, find a sense of humor. I think they sell them at Target. Like you can get them somewhere. Go get them. Freedom from control and detail. honestly, sometimes the people who aren't funny are the funniest. So like just live and breathe into that moment, because if that's you, congratulations. You've got a great sense of humor. You just didn't know it yet. And we ask who and what questions because those involve emotion. Like what is it about this house that you love? What is it about the fireplace that drives you crazy, positive or negative? And we use stories about others to convince them. So when we want to have a conversation about something like a price drop, what we say is, I've done the research here, and the research says that 35 of the homes that have hit the market in the last year all did a price drop after 2 weeks. You don't want me to fail, do you? And they're going to say, no, of course. Then don't you think we should do what everyone else is doing and drop our price so that we can make sure we're in line with the market? Because what's happening right now is everyone else is dropping their price, and we look like we're out of touch. My goodness, we're out of touch. Are you kidding me? We are the future. Get out of here with that. And then help them please others. So if you can help tie it back to making sure that other people feel good about it, it's a win. You want to close a deal. You know how those deals that are like, you're this close to closing, and usually with a high I, get some emotion attached to it. Start talking to them about, I know these buyers, they started talking about like what it was going to be like to live in this house. And they were so excited to have their family over in the backyard and barbecue, and start creating some pictures that like they might've created in their house when they first bought it. And suddenly they're going to be like, okay, we'll give up the $10,000. We'll go ahead and give it to them. We win because we're weak. We high eyes are weak. We love emotion. We love emotion so much. Just kidding. We're not weak. It's actually a great asset. Keep it. Any questions about high eyes?
Easy
No, sir.
peasy.
Okay, let's keep going. So high S's are my favorite because my fiance, I got engaged last week. So my fiance, this is like the second time I've said it to anybody. My fiance is a high S, and she's the most wonderful woman on the face of the planet. And if you see her, tell her I said hi. Okay, high S's, they are the peacemakers. They're the peacekeepers. They want everything and everybody to go smoothly. Now, this is a great quality and a terrible quality because high S's, y'all say yes to literally everything, but you don't mean it. You're liars. There's 3 types of yeses that people give. There's the confirmation yes, which is yes, I understand. There's the counterfeit yes, which is yes, but what I really mean is no. And then there's the actual yes that means like, there's the counterfeit, confirmation, and oh crap, what's the third one? See, I already forgot it. But high S's, anyway, the counterfeit yes is the most important. High S's give counterfeit yeses all the time because they don't want to hurt people's feelings. And so what happens is they say yes, and then they spend the whole commitment. Yes, thank you. You're amazing. God, that's why you're a team leader. Commitment, confirmation, counterfeit. So they say yes, but what they really mean is until I can get home and figure out a way to tell you no. That's a high S. And then the whole time they're working to figure out how to tell you no, they're carrying guilt like a badge of honor because all they want to do is they said yes to not hurt your feelings. And now they're super concerned that they're going to hurt your feelings when they try and tell you no. So they create BS excuses like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I have to get my 8th shot for my vaccine. You're like, 8 shots. Is that Moderna? What is that one? They'll just make something up. It's the truth. And then they'll feel guilty because they lied. And they may even come to you later and say, I'm so sorry I lied to you. I was available, but I just didn't know how to tell you no. And then if you're a high D, you're like, what are you talking about? I don't even remember us having a conversation. And if you're a high I, you're like, I don't care. Oh my God, I'm so sorry I made you feel that way. I love you. Oh my God, give me a hug. Let's go for a drink. Coffee, frappuccinos. If you're a high S, you're like, oh my God, me too. I was so upset. I'm so sorry. You commiserate. It feels great. 35%, the largest section of the population is a high S. So you're dealing with a lot of high S's, which is great for us because they are the most, and I say this with love in my heart, the most manipulatable. You can leverage a lot of things with a high S to win because we didn't get into this business to lose. Can we agree? We don't go on listing presentations not to get them. We don't go on buyer consultations to lose them. So we want to win. So we need to weaponize it, and understanding how to win with a high S. Sorry, that was really high D of me. How to win with a high S is just as important as understanding when you are one. They are supportive. They want to work with other people to get things done. High S's do not want to lead anything. Don't let a high S be the leader. High S's want to be an integral cog in the wheels to success. So they want to be an integral piece that you put together that actually gets you to the end goal. They are stable. You can trust that they're going to get things done, or that they're going to just like show up for you. They're not going to let you down, because letting you down would provide too much guilt for them. They are steady. They are sweet. They tend to be super nice. Like, they're just the nicest people in the world because they always say yes to everybody. But they also want to maintain a status quo. They tend to be shy or introverted. They're introverted extroverts. Like, they are really comfortable with their tight group of people, but in large settings, they tend to be a little bit overwhelmed and have a little bit of anxiety. By the way, anxiety and guilt are the two calling cards of a high S. So if you're a high S, congratulations, you're seen. Now, here's the big thing. They cannot say no. No is not in their vocabulary. They will dance around the word no like it's a jig. Like they are river dancing. Like, it is unbelievable to watch a high S try and tell you no. They are phenomenal listeners. Honestly, one of your best qualities, y'all, if you're a high S, is that you listen like nobody else, because you actually care. Because you actually have care for the other people that are around you, and you want things to go well, so you listen, which is why you're exceptional partners to be in relationships with. If you're single right now, send every Tinder swipe a disc profile and see what you get, okay? Send every Hinge or Bumble freaking Tony Robbins disc profile, and if you see that high S, you say, let's go on a date. And if you see that high C, you run for the hills. I'm just kidding. They are team players. They want to do what's right for everybody else. They tend to be very possessive of their people and their things. They're once you're in a high S's community, like, it's tight. You probably have like maybe 3 or 4 friends who actually mean something to you, and everyone else is sort of like on the fringes. They are very much understanding. Even if that hurts their feelings, they want to come to a conclusion where everyone feels good. So they're very friendly and super predictable. If they say they're going to show up, honestly, you can trust that they're going to show up. They want to be accepted. So if you want to win with a high S, you accept them just as they are. You accept their house just as it is. Don't go into a high S's home and start talking about changing things. Like, don't talk about all the staging that's going to make their house better for sale. We know we're going to stage it, but they don't need to know why. We love their furniture. We love that stupid piece from Home Goods that they got on the wall. We love everything about their home. They like to be in the team, right? So they want to know that they're not doing this together. So if you know they're a high S, use things like we instead of I'm going to do this. Say things like, we're going to make sure this house gets sold for the right price at the right time for you. Instead of I'm going to make sure that this house gets sold, which is a high D, we is going to get you, the relationship will get you in every time. And they like sticking with what works. So don't get creative on these guys. In fact, literally you can tell them, we are going to do the tried and true methods that we know produce the results to get your house sold or to help you buy a house. And then you can tell them what it is, but they're probably not going to listen. They like harmony and they like things to stay the same. So, and they love routine, right? So we want to create some semblance of routine with them. So tell them, hey, listen, when we're in business together, I'm going to reach out to you every single Friday, every single Sunday after the open house. I'm going to reach out to you and just give you a quick little recap, let you know what people are saying, because I want to make sure you know what the word on the street is. So just give them the opportunity to maintain relationship with you. They do not like change. And I really mean this. Like change, and they're kind of like crazy about change too. Like, for instance, if you go into the house on an open house day and you move their coffee table 6 inches to the left, they're going to come in and realize their whole world is upside down. Don't make big changes. And if you want to make a change, ask them for the opportunity to make the change. They take a long time to adjust to it. So this is a great opportunity, because honestly, some of the things, maybe not in this market because everything's selling for 100 million% over asking, but in a normalized market where things are selling 1% to 2% under, or maybe at ask, if you need to do a price drop with a high S, you need to introduce the price drop weeks before you choose to do it. So you need to tell them at the listing presentation, what we're going to do, what other people have done in this neighborhood, as I've done the research, is after about 2 weeks, because we're tying in everybody else, right? Everybody else is doing this. After about 2 weeks in the market, if we don't have a really strong offer, we're going to do what the other couples have done and we're going to drop the price. But we're only going to drop it a small amount to get it re-energized on the MLS. And if for some reason we still don't have any action off of that, we're going to hold that for another week and we'll do another price drop. But I'm going to tell you exactly what those price drops will be prior to us ever doing them so that you feel comfortable understanding that we're doing that. It's all about we're going to do it together. By the way, High S's hold a grudge. So if you screw them over, you lost them forever as a client, like forever. A grudge is an unbelievably beautiful thing that they have power over, where they don't actually have to talk to you to not like you. Like, how wonderful is that? We don't have to actually say anything. We can just hold a grudge, just chip on my shoulder. They are sensitive to criticism. So don't criticize their house. Don't walk through and be like, oh, we can paint that wall and change those curtains and uplift this carpet. Don't do that. Tell them everything that they love is lovely. And then when you get back to your stager, you can be like, yo, we got to change some stuff. Like, we got to get this thing unlocked because it is ugly as shit. You know, some of them have no design style whatsoever because their design style is whatever the other person in the house's design style is. So difficulty in establishing priorities. So you want to have to help them to establish what the priorities are. And also because they don't want to cause problems, they're going to have a hard time asking you what the priorities are. They're going to just do what they think is best. And then they're going to feel guilty if they did it wrong. So make sure you set those up for them. And they have trouble sharing their feelings. They don't love feelings. Feelings are scary and they involve other people having other feelings that are different than their feelings. And so they don't like the feelings. So stay away from feelings. Deal in the facts unless it's positive feelings. Their biggest fear of a high S is loss of security. So if you're a high S, you probably are what we call a black hat thinker. And what that means is you tend to think of the worst possible case scenario, and then you live in the world as if that worst possible case scenario is the reality because you want to protect yourself from the worst thing that could happen because anything above that worst thing would be okay. So I want you to know the worst thing that happens isn't always going to happen, just so you know. How many of you feel like I've got you, like you're seen right now? How many high S's are on the call? Yeah, John. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Sarah's like, wow. Oh, Sarah, I love you to pieces. I think you're the best. Okay. So how do you relate? How do we win? Be super friendly, be supportive, ask how, not what questions, because how engages us. What feels like your judgment? What is judgment? How is togetherness? Use evidence of benefit to convince. So don't just tell them we're going to do this. Tell them we're going to do this because of X, Y, and Z, because other people do this. Give them details. They may not feel like they need them, but they like details because they want some evidence. Be patient when introducing change, chanje, as they say, or tarje. Display a sincere interest in them. If they feel like you care about them, they're going to want to work with you. There's a stat that goes around that says 61% of we're more likely to work with someone if we like them. In fact, we're 61% more likely to work with somebody if they like us. So this is the whole point of this. The whole point of this conversation is to get people to like us because we choose to communicate the way that they want to be communicated with. Display a sincere interest in them. Present ideas which require them to change how they do something in a non-threatening manner. Give time to adjust, which is why I say in a price drop situation, give them 2 weeks. Give them time for the staging. Don't say we're going to get stagers in here on Monday when you meet with them on Saturday. Like, tell them we're going to take our time to get this ready and do it right so that they don't feel like they're rushing because you're going to throw their whole world upside down. And they're going to feel like they're not safe with you. Help them to understand how their actions will minimize risks because minimizing risk equals avoiding conflict. And that's how you win. And then never, 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 ever, never, ever, never, ever change their environment without asking. Don't put a candle. Don't let a candle for the open house. Don't bake cookies in the oven. Don't go in there and paint a wall. Don't close the curtain and then not open it back up when you leave. Like, make sure that their environment is untouched, unscathed, and is beautiful. With me on this? Okay. Any questions about high S's? By the way, high S's have had questions about all these things, but because nobody else asked a question, they didn't raise their hand.
Can you go back to that page? I didn't get the last two. Understand. Never change environment. Okay, got it.
I'm just going through. Are there any questions? How do they sound on the phone? Okay, so this is interesting. High S's typically sound a little bit like high I's because they don't want to be rude on the phone. So they'll be super friendly, very gregarious, but they may not be overly gregarious. So if you say things like, how are you doing? They'll say, oh, I'm doing really well. How are you? They're always going to ask you the question back because it would be rude not to. High D's will be like, I'm good. What's up? Oh, shit. Oh, I'm sorry. I called. They make you feel like you're a challenger. You're the problem. High S's. So when you get some form or fashion of relationship building where they want to engage with you, you know you're dealing with a high I or a high S. First, again, we're all an assemblance of a couple different things. So it's important that you don't just label somebody and then run with that label 24/7. It's important that you allow them the opportunity to show up a little bit differently if that's how they want to operate. But I also think with high I's and high S's, it's important that they just feel that you understand them. So it's important when you're with a high S that you ask things like, do you feel like I understand what you're saying? Do you mind if I recreate what I just heard from you to make sure I understand what it is that you're talking about? And then you just repeat what they said. So what I'm hearing is you really want to get this house sold as fast as possible because it's important to you that you make the move for the new job. And we're really looking at like a 2-week time frame. And after 2 weeks, it's going to get a little stressful for you. Is that clear? Do I understand what you're talking about? They're going to say, yes, you understand. And that, yes, I understand, or yes, that's right, or any of those confirmations, that is you building relationship with a high S. You with me?
Remember, and if you're a high D on the phone with them, you can push them into an appointment because they don't want to disappoint you, right? They'll be, oh yeah, okay, yeah, we better do an appointment. Then you're all excited, you're getting it ready, and they're like canceling.
Yeah, the day of, they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I broke every bone in my body, I can't make it.
Yeah, darn. It's that 8th COVID shot they got to get.
High S's are kings and queens of counterfeit yeses because they don't want to tell you no because they feel like they're going to have to fight or argue or they don't want to be in trouble. High S's are also were the goody two shoes in school. So like if you were the goody two shoes in school, then you're probably a high S. Okay. Any other questions on high S's? Let's go to high C's. I love it. Okay. Now I want you to know my ex-girlfriend was a high C. So I'm just going to tell you some fun stories. Enjoy them because I think they're hysterical. If you're a high C, just know that this is who you are and you can't change it. Just kidding. You can if you want to. Okay. Rule followers. These are people who the world is black and white. So there's the gray area is anxiety ridden. So we need to make sure that we follow the rules, we set the standards, and we follow through with all of the data and all the details. I want you to know high C's are very much like high D's in the sense that they're right 100% of the time. Just ask my ex. They are right 100% of the time. And if you want them to be wrong, you have to have evidence to show them why they are wrong. You can't just say you're wrong because they're going to be like, well, obviously you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You have to show them the reasons why you're wrong. Give them, as they say, the receipts. Okay. 25% of the population, same subset of the population as high I's are going to be high C's. Now it's very, very, very rare that you will find a high I, high C. Those two usually never go hand in hand. And honestly, those are really the only two. High D and high S rarely ever go hand in hand, and high I and high C rarely go hand in hand. So you're usually going to get some semblance of high D, high I, high D, high D, high C, or high I, high S, high C. Very rare, even high S, high D you'll get. Sorry, high I, high S, but you'll very rarely get the two combo right next to it. Very rare. Okay. These human beings are cautious. They're calculating. They're competent. They're cognitive. They're contemplative. They are careful. They're cold. They tend to be a little bit cold, but they're not actually cold. They just tend to be a little bit cold. They're perfectionists because their way is the right way and everything else is just some semblance of wrong. And they tend to dress a little bit the same. They like their black t-shirts or their jeans or whatever it is, the shirt that they wear. And they are very much accurate. Any of you high C's on the call? Yeah, Tracy? Okay, great. Very accurate. So they want things to be done right. And they don't do things twice, they do things once. They don't like failure. They don't actually, you can't like, if you're going to ask them to do something new, they need time to figure out how the best people do it first, and then they will attempt to do it themselves. High Cs tend to get stuck in something called analysis paralysis. High Cs are the ones who take 1,000 classes before they ever take action on the one thing that they took the class for. So like if when a high C goes in to take bold, it's like pure torture for them because they feel like they haven't taken enough classes for the one thing that they're talking about in that day. High Ds are like, let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's go. High Is are like, the whole room's doing it. Let's do it together. And high S's are like, well, if the whole room's doing it, I must do it. I don't want to look like a failure. And high C's are like, I'm not ready to do this. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to fail when I do this.
When you were talking about the combinations, so like a DC is really rare. You know who those are? Lawyers, right? You have to be that driven, kind of attacking personality and highly, highly, highly analytical, right?
Yeah.
And so then that's why there's such a small percentage of successful lawyers in the country. It's because it's just a rare personality trait to be both of those. Or like those crazy, like heart surgeons, DC, right? Like,
because their attention to detail is astonishing, but they also just want to get things done.
All right.
Very weird combo. My ex was a high DC. So imagine as a high DI living with another driver who doesn't care about relationship. They just care about doing things the right way. So I'll tell you. So I tell the story every single time because I think it's hysterical. My ex's version of being in relationship with me was providing me. I came home one day after work. I worked like honestly like 10 hours that day. And I came home from work and she had hung a whiteboard in our kitchen. And I was like, what is this whiteboard doing in our kitchen? Why is this here? And she was like, oh, it's because I'm going to write down everything you need to do in the house on the whiteboard. And you can just cross it off the list when you're done. And like, that'll be so fun, right? Because like you get to like the act of crossing it off the list. I wanted to throw that whiteboard into the Milky Way and have it disintegrate into a million pieces. And then I wanted to throw her off the building because that's a lose-lose for me. First of all, I'm a high I. So this decoration in this house needs to be freaking flawless. And second of all, don't put a whiteboard with my to-do list in front of me. I'll tell you what my to-do list is. I'm a high D. Okay. I'll tell you. Well, anyway, that whiteboard lasted about 20 minutes. That relationship didn't last much longer after that. But that's neither here nor there. Okay. They like to be, did we go through the other ones already? Yes. Okay. They like to be right. And by like, I mean, they're right 100% of the time. Just ask them. They are right all the time. They like to know what is expected from them. So high Cs really want to have set expectations so that they don't feel like they're losing. Because if you don't give them set expectations, even with a buyer or a seller, if you don't tell them what to expect along the way, they're going to get frustrated and feel like they don't have support or that they're making mistakes. And they like established patterns. So with a high C, you may show up with your listing presentation and go through every single page. You just might. And if you don't have the data written down, you need to have the data in here and in a spreadsheet and in a digital copy that you can send to them so they can review it anywhere that they are in the earth. They need to be able to review the data. They like clear instructions. So don't be wishy-washy with what it's going to look like. And they like finishing what they start. So if they're going to start a project, they are going to finish it no matter what. They will break their bones. And they want to make sure everything is organized. Dennis said, my wife. Your wife is a high C, Dennis? I get it.
Yes, she is.
It's a hard life. Just kidding. She's probably wonderful. They like organization. So like, honestly, you want to win with a high C, have them come home and you organize their whole closet for them. Actually don't, because you'll do it wrong. But they'll appreciate the gesture. But honestly, that's been something on their to-do list for the last 35 years, and they haven't done it because they don't have enough time and because they don't know how they want to do it because they haven't done enough research on how to get it done. You with me on this? Okay. So what are the weaknesses? Clear-cut boundaries. They need to understand what is winning and what is losing. They don't like the middle ground. They're bound by procedures and methods. So if you want them to be successful, show them what you want them to do and then let them do it, because they'll know once they do it, which is why my ex loved crossing things off a list, because it allowed her the procedure or the method to show that the work was done. They get bogged down in the details. So like, for instance, when my ex bought that whiteboard, I literally saw her Amazon cart. There were 19 different whiteboards in her Amazon cart because she didn't know which whiteboard she wanted to get on the wall because she wasn't sure which one was going to be best for the task. First of all, I don't even know there were 19 whiteboards in the world. So like, kill me. They prefer not to verbalize their feelings because their feelings are based in emotion and they tend to get a little bit flustered. And so in that fluster, they don't deal in facts. They tend to lash out and will give in rather than argue. They'll just like give up. They'll be like, screw it. It's not worth fighting for anymore because you're obviously wrong, but you're not going to see it. Little need to affiliate with people. So honestly, these are people who like to be by themselves. They are self-starters. They don't have a problem working alone, which is a great quality and a terrible quality because you can't sell houses by yourself. Fun fact, you need other people to buy houses. So does not like to delegate tasks. Control freaks just like high Ds, perfectionists just like high Ds. And they avoid involvement when threatened. So anytime there's threats or anytime there's something that shows up that could be a negative or a potential problem, they're just going to back away and not engage themselves, which is tough because some relationships every once in a while show up as problems, but then they choose to disengage. And instead of actually dealing with the problem, they just swipe it under the rug. And they focus on their own tasks and accomplishments, and they're very black or white. And by the way, high Cs are exceptionally wonderful people. By the way, I just, obviously I had a poor experience with an ex, but honestly, we need them in our lives because they're the reason why we have market updates. High Cs are the reason why we have market data because somebody out there was like, I must put this data into a form that allows other people to share it accordingly. Their biggest fear is criticism. High Cs, don't tell them anything about who they are or what they know because you don't know them and you're wrong. So don't criticize a high C. Don't criticize anything about them. You can ask how and what questions, not what questions, I'm sorry. You can ask fact-based questions. So questions that don't deal in the emotion. So just be careful if you criticize somebody's like design style or if you criticize how they chose to list the property or any of that sort of stuff, even if you're trying to get the listing from somebody else or if it's an expired, be careful how you criticize it. Because honestly, here's why. Because I'll be willing to bet you with a high C that they made the agent do it their way first. And then when they realized that their way wasn't successful, they fired the agent because the agent was the problem. You with me on this? And it's very challenging for a high C to admit defeat. So when you go to them and say, yeah, that house was overpriced and the photos were terrible, that was probably their idea because they thought they didn't need to do this thing and didn't need to do that thing. And now you're telling them that they're an idiot. So just be careful. Be very careful. All right. So how to relate? How do you win? We talk about this win and losing, right? We're trying to win in our relationships and our communication. Be prepared. Do not show up to a high C without knowing your shit. If you don't know your stuff, you have lost every single time. And that doesn't matter if it's a buyer, if it's a seller, if they're thinking about buying in 9 months, if they're thinking about selling in 10 years. If they have a perception that you don't know your stuff, don't have the conversation. In fact, they would prefer that you said, I don't have the necessary information to give you the details yet. And I know that's important to you. Give me 24 hours and let's come back tomorrow at 3 o'clock and I will have everything ready for you. A high C will appreciate that significantly more than you just being like, yeah, this is where I think it might be and this is where it might go. Because the high C's already done 17 years of research and come up with conclusions that are the correct ones. A high C is looking for you to say what they already know to be true. Let me repeat that and take a breath. A high C already has the answers. When you're at a listing presentation or a buyer consultation, they're looking for you to agree with them without them telling you what they think first. They want to know that you agree that you're on the same wavelength that they are. And if you're not, that's where we have some challenges. You will never get a high C to sign a listing agreement on the first appointment. Don't even try. Tell them, usually my clients sign a listing agreement on the first appointment, but I know that you're going to want to go through this and I want to make sure I give you the time to do that. And you're probably going to have some questions. So what I'd like to do is schedule a second appointment with you tomorrow at the same time to go over the questions you have about the listing agreement before you sign it. Because people want to feel seen. They want to feel like who they are as a person is not wrong. And so when you tell them, when you label them as who they are, you get the opportunity, one, to knock it out of the park and be correct, or you get the opportunity for them to be like, no, actually, I'm fine. I'll sign it right now. And you win either way. You with me on this? Okay, don't surprise them. Sorry, I skipped a few. Provide straight pros and cons, black or white. Support ideas with the data. Don't surprise them. Give them the step-by-step approach. So literally after your listing presentation, you should tell them you're going to send them a document that tells them what the whole process looks like along the way. And then that process is how we'll follow it. And you and I will sit down together, or I'll have my assistant, or I will sit down and mark out all the dates, what's required of you and what's required of me, so that you know where we are in the process. And I'll update you every week to make sure that we're on the same page. They want the data. If agreeing with somebody, be specific. This is a big one. So don't just say, yes, I agree. Say, yes, I agree that house down the street was overpriced. And those sellers I actually spoke to those sellers, and they were just really set on a number because it mattered to their family. Give them the details. If disagreeing, disagree with the facts, not the person. Don't tell them you're wrong. Tell them I understand that's your understanding of the numbers, but let me show you why I think there's something different. And then you better like Santa's naughty and nice list, like just roll it out. Have all the facts ready to go. Have this estimate that's 14% inaccurate. Have the comps ready to go that you can leave with them. Highlight the things that you want them to see that prove your point, so that they don't just look at a full page of information and go into analysis paralysis while they try and freaking data mine the computer in their brain. Be prepared to provide many explanations in a patient, persistent, and diplomatic manner. Minimize the small talk. Ask why questions, not what questions, and avoid violating their standards. They are going to have set standards that you will never know what they are because they don't communicate them because they think you should just know, but you have to make sure that we don't violate them. One of the ways you can do that is a great question that you can ask a high C, which is, how do I win with you and how do I lose with you? When you ask a high C, how do I win with you? That question gives them the opportunity to say, I really want to make sure that this, and this. They get to tell you how to work with them. And then you get to do this thing. It's called doing it. And you just do it. You do what they say to do to win with them. And then you don't do the things that they lose with. Don't be vague. Please don't be vague, be specific, and know that they will want to double check everything. This is why you're not going to get that listing agreement signed, because they're going to probably want to go on Google and download a listing agreement, a standardized listing agreement, to make sure that you didn't slide anything in there that shouldn't be in there. Okay. This is it. So we've got about 15 minutes left. There are 38 people on this call. I usually want at least like 25% of the people on the call to share an aha. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So that means I need 38. Let's just round it up to 40. I need 10 people to share an aha. Who wants to go first? Dennis, hit me with it.
So my aha for today is, the importance of understanding the DISC personality traits and how you can use it to your benefit instead of to your detriment. Realizing who's across the table from you, realizing who you are as your personality, and just using that to your advantage to grow and further your business.
It's a weapon, guys. Mm-hmm. This is a weapon that you hold in or we can call it a tool, but we call it a weapon because we need to use it intentionally. Like, you can use a hammer to beat anything, right? When we talk about communication, we don't want to communicate like a hammer. We want to communicate with intention. I love that. That's one. We need 9 more.
I can give you 9 more if you want.
Nope. But I appreciate that.
Tambi.
Hey, Tambi.
I'm looking at how do I survive working with those types that I have a really hard time working with. So
give me an example of who you have a hard time working with.
High C. Mm-hmm. I've had clients who was a high C, and I don't know how we survived the relationship, but so for me, it's mainly a question of how do I survive this relationship? How do I get through it without, destroying our reputation?
Tambi, do I have your permission to coach you through this moment?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, here's the deal. let's first of all, we need to change the way we're communicating about it, because we have to get the word survive out of there. Because if we go into the conversation thinking it's a survival or we're going to die, we're going to lose every time. Here's the reason why you're having a hard time with it. The reason why we have a hard time is because we don't have set standards on how we choose to communicate with certain communication types. So if we don't and this is the first, or is this the second time you've taken this class or first time?
First.
Yeah. So like, congratulations. Welcome to new information, where now you get to make some intentional decisions in how you choose to communicate. When you get the chance to identify who the person is you're talking to, and you see that they're a high C. By the way, I'm the same way. I have a very challenging time dealing with high Cs, because my brain doesn't work the way their brain works. And so I actually have to take a step back and say, okay, I need to change the way in which I'm communicating intentionally. And so I literally have to slow down. I have to think before I speak, which is a rare thing for me to do as a high D. And I have to set standards. So I literally will have, like on my team in New York, if we're dealing with a high C, we have a totally different protocol on how we prep for the listing or prep for the buyer consultation. Because once you get through it once and you understand sort of what the roller coaster ride looks like when you ride it, then at least you know what's coming and you can be intentional about what that looks like. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
I think part of what we had to do is my husband, who's one way, and me, who's another way, we had to decide who gets to work with this high C client, and he could not continue to work with this high C client. So I had to step in to work with the high C client.
Some high Cs are a pain in the ass.
Yeah, total. And frankly, I wanted to just leave her.
Sure. But you know what you do when you get those clients that you actually truly cannot deal with. By the way,
yeah,
the only reason why
those are the clients I'm talking about, the ones you can't actually deal with.
So there's two things that I want you all to know. The only reason why we take terrible clients is because we don't have a pipeline big enough with good clients. So if we don't have a pipeline big enough with good clients and you don't want to deal with this client, you refer this client to somebody who's a high C. You with me on this?
Yeah.
Okay. We choose to work. I don't know why, when we don't have a big pipeline, the shitty people come out of the woodwork and want to work with us. Y'all know it's true. It's no different than when we choose to go on vacation. Suddenly everyone wants to list their house. Like, I literally just booked a vacation. Are you kidding me? It works this way. So if we are because let me just, this is my opinion, take it with a grain of salt, a whole bag of salt, actually. The time that we spend in the negative mindset when dealing with this client is time that we could be spending generating opportunities for clients that we actually want to work with. And so if you don't want to work with a client because honestly, some people are just crazy. And if they're actually just crazy and like we can't figure out how to communicate powerfully, refer them to the craziest agent you know, and usually it gets the job done. And then take a damn referral fee because it's mailbox money when they close. That's my opinion.
Like you have leverage through like a high C, like killer transaction coordinator, right? Like when you have that person that helps kind of alleviate all their kind of fears of not being organized by being that incredibly organized person for you, it'll actually kind of help you too. Now, if you're having a hard time even getting to the point of needing the transaction coordinator, that's when personally, that's when I'm referring them out, except for when my pipeline's too thin, then I work with everyone.
Yeah, then we work with everybody. We take the discounts, we take the shitty people, we take everybody. But I promise you, if you got rid of the shitty person and gave them to somebody who you know can handle them better, take a referral fee. I'd rather have you spend the time doing activities that actually put you in a great state of mind, because when you talk to that person and you feel like shit, the next person you talk to is going to get the version of who you were just talking to. And you're not going to be powerful in your communication style when you move forward. That was a good one. Thank you, Tambi. Elk Grove, Eli, hit me with it.
So definitely the power of words, like being intentional, listening to what they say. Like Joey, when you shared how they answer the phone call, right? It's like sometimes we don't do that because we're already thinking about the questions we're going to ask or the things we're going to say.
Yes.
We don't stop for a second to see the way we should communicate best with these people. So that was huge, brother. Dude,
we're machines, and someone gave us a script, but didn't tell us how to get to the script, right? It's like, here's the script. Hi, my name is Joey. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams. How are you today? Well, if that person just answered the phone and said hello, and you
Yeah.
could just go into your script, you better know that they don't care how you're doing today. They just want to like just get to the point. But
Yeah.
then here's the best part is once you know, you can label it and you can say, I know that you're probably really busy and you only have a minute. So I'm going to take 30 seconds of that minute.
Yeah.
In the next 30 seconds, I understand. And then hit them with whatever the script is.
Yep. Love it.
Love it. Thank you. Go ahead, John.
So my disc when I first did this, it showed that I was a high I, high D, and a high C, which I thought was interesting. But I did spend 25 years in corporate finance, so that explains the high C. And what I find is that the people that I really like working with are high Ds. I love working with them. I don't care if they're rude, it doesn't bother me. But I know that the reason that they're rude is because in their mind they don't have the time to act as a high S, as a high I, and they won't. So I don't expect that. Now, the funny part is that my wife is a high S, a super high S, and so when we're working together, because quite frankly, I have no time for S's, and so just to be frank with it, and so she will always work with them. But now that she's not so much working in the business, I've had to learn how to adjust to deal with high S's. What I've noticed is that over time, for myself, I noticed that I fluctuate, between the DISC, which just tells me that I guess you have your basic groundness, in the disc. But you become like a chameleon, after a while, and you can just adjust to any. But like I say, if I had a choice between a high D and an S, the D would get it every time.
Right. But what's so powerful? There's two things you said that are so powerful there. The first is that you now know what operational style you win with most often. And you also now know which one's going to be a challenge. And so you can now be intentional with how you prep to work with those people.
Yes.
So that you don't have to be challenged in the middle of a transaction and be like, why is this so difficult? Why does this person drive me crazy? Oh, that's right, because they're a high S.
Yes.
Now we get to say, okay, this person is a high S. Is this person such a high S where my high I isn't going to alleviate this sort of like communication style? Or is this person such a high S that I need to refer this business out? We get choices. I love that. All right. I think that was 4, maybe 5. So I need at least 30 more. So yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
So this was great even for me as an individual to know my profile disc, because not even for a client, but to know where you fit. My biggest aha was when you set for a high I, they build relationship, but they don't systemize how to interact with the friends, and then they list or work with another agent, and you'd be like, oh, what happened? I thought we were friends.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's crazy is that if you're a high S, that like breaks your heart. And it doesn't break your heart because they work with somebody else. It breaks your heart because you didn't do something to get them to work with you.
Exactly.
You blame yourself constantly.
Yeah.
It's a battle. I love that. All right, 4 more. Yeah, Nikki.
Yeah, what was that is because sometimes like what you're saying, you're not driving yourself crazy, but sometimes like you said, refer to someone who fits better instead of and I love what you said, that you're wasting your energy because it affects you with the other clients. And not only that, it affects with your family. So it makes me feel like, dude, I gotta get another pipeline that is like, hey, it's not gonna be best for me. And it's only going to help you out if you work with this other agent. So it's a better fit. And, I think that was a huge that is like, you can't pick and choose, but being aware and identifying who's the DISC. So it's been, that's been really helpful.
I haven't gotten to the point yet where I make my clients take a disc profile, but if that ever becomes a regular thing, I will do that in a heartbeat, because then I know exactly how to win and lose with them.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's one of the things about this is that like we don't get to, we lead generate not for price point, we lead generate for units, right? We can't dictate what price points come to us. We can only dictate the conversion of a lead to a conversion to a unit, right? So you're not going to know if it's going to be a $500,000 sale or a $3 million sale.
Mhm.
The exact same thing comes with who that client is with attached to that unit. We can't lead generate for high Ds. It just doesn't work
Yeah.
that way. So
Yeah.
we have to lead generate for people and opportunities, and then we get to make a choice on how we want to operate within those opportunities.
Yeah, thank you. And I think learning from them is important, like learning what triggers, what's their hot button, what's the communication. And I think it bridged that connection.
Yeah.
And like you said, people like to work with people who they feel comfortable, trust, and like. And it's
Yes.
like you want to be likable.
Yeah, I mean, is anybody getting to the business and they were like, you know what I'm going to be? I'm going to be the worst freaking realtor anyone's ever worked with. Like, I'm just going to be the biggest monster anyone's ever seen. No, of course not. Like, we want to be liked. Everybody wants to be liked, except high Ds. They say they don't care, but then they're like, I don't care about that person. That person doesn't care about me. I don't care about that person. Like, I love that. 3 more.
Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry, go ahead. I'm going to unmute you, Jerry. There we go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just had an aha moment. My aha moment is I want to lead generate for both price and disc personality.
Unfortunately, you don't get to make that choice.
I think I do.
Okay, Heidi.
Yeah, I was going
Okay.
to say you do in the sense of like, great when you find the disc personality that you don't want to work with, refer them out, right? And then
Exactly.
pick and choose.
Hey,
When,
Jasmine.
like we said, if you have a big enough pipeline, pick and choose. Oh, Nikki's got to get muted.
I got it. Honestly, Jerry, I wish that I had figured out the secret sauce for pipeline, or I'm sorry, for price point lead generation, because I will be in a building. I'll be selling a condo in a building worth $6.5 million and still get a $700,000 condo in another building. It's like, come on, somebody here, help me. So I haven't figured it out. If you figure it out, I'll have you teach a class about it, because honestly, I haven't figured it out.
Anyway, you know me, I just have to talk. So
I like it.
that's
Oh, wow.
the high I in me.
Someone's a high eye. There you go.
All right, 2 more.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question in place of them saying anything.
Okay.
So you said, you wish if you ever get to the point of having clients take disc tests before you meet with them, right? How much do you think you can actually just read someone? Because you know this at extremely high level. How confident are you that you can just meet someone and pretty much identify maybe with 80% accuracy what their disc is without them taking it?
Do you want my high D answer, or do you want the real answer?
Let's go with both, because it'll be a good
Okay.
example.
High D is 100% of the time. I can identify who you are 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And honestly, part of it is just because I teach it so often,
Mhm.
teach this class so often. So I'm constantly re-engaging my brain in what it is that these people are. Now, the high D in me tends to sometimes forget that I know this information and just make some assumptions. And so I would say when we assume, we make an ass out of me and me. And so it never ends up working out when I make the assumption. But what I do, if I feel like if I can identify that I'm in the assumptive mode of like who somebody is, then what I'll do is I'll ask some questions that are sort of relationship-based questions and see how they operate. So I'll say like, oh my gosh, like when was the last time you got to go on vacation? And they'll be like, oh my, I went on vacation like 6 months ago. And I was like, tell me about that. What was it like to go on vacation? Where'd you go? What'd you do? And the minute they tell me like, oh yeah, we just like went on a whim and we had a great time. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a high D, high I. More in there. Or if they're like, yeah, I planned the most elaborate vacation for my family and I. It was 14 days and 17 minutes. And I'll be like, oh man, did you plan it like was there a list? Was there an Excel spreadsheet that you did? And they'll be like, yeah, there was an Excel spreadsheet and everybody got a copy of it. And they're like so excited to share that information. And I'm like, oh God, kill me. Okay. Now I have to provide all the details. Now I know I need details. But then asking those questions that are seemingly relationship based, but they give you the information that you're looking for without ever having to be like, excuse me, are you a high C? That's what I would say. But yeah, 100% of the time I knock it out of the park. In case you're wondering. All right, I still want 2 more though.
Cool. Oh, okay.
I still want 2 more. Yeah, Tracy.
So I think my biggest aha moment for this is that I always, for some reason, thought that I'm a high D, but then I took the test and then I just found out that I'm a high C. So
Welcome. Welcome to the club. Yeah. Most high Ds, most high Cs have a lot of high D qualities because they're short, sweet, and to the point. They want to get things done very quickly. They want to get it done right. They're perfectionists. But the biggest difference between a high D and a high C is the details. High Ds don't give a rat's flying behind about the details. High Cs need the details. Does that resonate with you?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. And the other thing too is evidence. High Cs need evidence of the details. High Ds, if you tell them the details, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Never heard that in my life. But yeah,
I need a strong supportive system to back up to whatever the fact is. Yes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And by the way, if you're dating a high C or a high S and you want them to like do something with you, show them the evidence. Or if they have anxiety about something because they're worried about something going to go wrong, show them evidence of things going right or the opposite way, and you'll win with them every single time. Okay, last one. Who wants to be the last one to end us on a high note?
I'll share.
Yeah, there we go.
Setting standards for how you intend to communicate with different operational styles. I think standards is really important. That way you're not like over the place. And I love that you said, asking the questions of how do I win with you and how do I lose with you? Because oftentimes I ask questions like what's important to you in a realtor, or what's important to you in working with the realtor. I think a better way to ask would be to ask these 2 questions on how I can win and how I can lose with them.
Yeah. And if you're dealing with somebody who's been with another realtor, you can ask them, what did the last realtor do to lose with you? Keep them in a little bit of pain, let them know like, okay, and then you know exactly what not to do. It's like they gave you the secrets, they gave you the key to the treasure chest. I love that. And truly, this is hard for me as a high D, but when I realized, it wasn't until I realized that creating systems around the individuals, their operational styles helped me win. The winning portion of it is what made me feel comfortable creating systems around it. And I needed other people to help me create the systems because I'm not systems oriented. But when I realized that to win as a high D, I need to create systems, that's when I started engaging more in that. All right, guys, we went over our time by 4 minutes. I appreciate your time.
Man.
I know, what a monster. If you haven't taken a DISC profile, the link is in the chat, tonyrobbins.com/DISC. Literally, you can take it for free. I think it takes 10 minutes. Do not answer the questions as you wish you were. Answer them as you are right now. Because if you start answering the questions of how you want to be versus how you are, you're going to get false positives. So go take that course. Jason can help you. Eli can help you. I can help you. Email any of us. We will walk you through what the DISC profile looks like and means for you. The other thing about this is once you know who you are, you can choose lead generation activities that are indicative of how you want to operate.
I actually meant to mention that earlier. So that'd be my aha. Sure. Is the, yeah, you can tell someone when they're like, I just want to be on the phone. So I want to call through. I want to get 100 people in a day. It's like, okay, there's your high D. And then I'm way more of I want to go sit in an open house. I want them to come to me and I want them to stay there forever and talk to me about that house. Right. High I. And so, but at the same time, I try to chase them out of the house too, because I want to move on to the next one because high D. So,
yeah. If you're a high I and you're relationship based, cold calling is going to be the worst for you because it's all, you're going to hear no a million times. And then you're going to feel defeated and you're not going to want to, and then you're going to have evidence that the activities don't produce the results. And so that's why I don't do them. Yeah. And so if you are a high I and you want to go out there and be in business with other people, you need to go lead generate with activities that allow you the opportunity to build relationships. If you're a high D, get your ass on the phones because you don't care if they say no. If you're a high D, like you need the round robin, like you're on Tinder swiping right and left for clients, like get out there and do what you need to do. If you're a high S, be careful. I would tell you to partner with somebody who has some attributes like a high I or high D that wants to work with somebody else, because when you work with a group, you're going to feel more comfortable and more confident getting a little bit uncomfortable. But I also think it's important that you know that there's a difference between being uncomfortable and being unsafe. That's a really big distinction. And so if you're choosing not to do something because you feel uncomfortable, make sure it's not because it's unsafe. Sometimes we operate as we shouldn't do something because you feel unsafe, but that discomfort, that if once the minute you tell yourself, I'm uncomfortable doing those things, you've set your ceiling of achievement. You will not be able to break through the next ceiling of achievement because you said I'm uncomfortable. The discomfort is what causes growth. Okay, that's it.
Boom.
You guys are awesome. Great chatting with you. Thank you for this.
I super appreciate it.
Yeah,
I mean, I
anytime.
think at one time we had like 45 people in here. It's a pretty good group.
Yeah, the high Ds all left real early. As soon as there was
Yeah,
they were like, I
as soon
already
as
did all
they
my
saw
odds.
your first slide and they're like, oh yeah, that's me. See you later. Bye. Listing appointment. Go.
Thanks, Joey.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys
Thank you,
being here.
Joey. Thank you, Joey.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jerry.